this opens up with Gotham City. And initially we follow this guy on a motorcycle, and he has this really, really cool monologue, right? Where he says, "Hello again, Gotham. It's been a long time. So who are you these days? Who have you become while I was gone? You're prettier,
So
I'll
is
give
this
you that,
Bruce?
taller and brighter. My third lap around and I still cannot find it. Where's your heart? You used to have a center, hot and beating, but something's hollowed you out. In fact, I barely recognize you anymore. I'm not sure I like this new you, Gotham, but that's okay. I don't think you're going to like me much either. My name is
Oh, dang.
Alfred Pennyworth, and I'm
Alfred.
here to do some bad things." This is so cool
Alfred out
because
here
I'll
looking
tell you
like
guys
Ra's
right
al
now,
Ghul.
yes, this is a Batman story. Alfred Pennyworth is amazing in this story. I don't think he's ever been better in DC Comics than he is in this story, and it's solid. And so what he does is he basically makes his way back to his house, which isn't really much of an apartment at all because he's not part of the Wayne family. At least he's not the kindly butler that we're traditionally used to. Scott Snyder leans very heavily into Alfred's military history, which is to say that in DC Comics, Alfred has a history largely associated with the military. Sometimes he was a soldier, sometimes he was a medic. It depends on what era of DC Comics we're talking about. In this instance, he has not left it behind. And in fact, he's really more a soldier of fortune than anything else. Of course, he is still estranged from his daughter Julia, just like he is in a lot of the other stories that exist out there. The difference here is that unlike Batman Eternal and the main DC universe, where she ultimately seemed to reconcile with Alfred, here, none of that happens, right? She's just like, "Don't ever contact me again." And so for Alfred himself, he signs into a secure connection to basically his handler, the folks that pay him in order to do whatever it is that he needs to do. And so what he does is he
Oh
asks,
man,
"What's
what's up
the
with that dude's
assignment?"
head?
And they say,
Party
"In the
animals?
past 3 months, a gang known as the Party Animals has been sowing chaos, butchering citizens at random, raising the murder rate by 700% almost single-handedly."
700% in Gotham. These party animals must be some demons. What the
A
heck?
daycare was torched yesterday. They danced outside while 32 people died. And so
They
Alfred's
are
just
some
kind of like, "I
demons.
read
A
the
building
docket,
burned
right?
down,
But
they just
like,
gonna dance over
why
the
did you
ashes
pull
like
me out of
that?
Singapore? I was this close to the target.
Dang.
I've been chasing him for like 5 years." And that's where they say, "You're needed here." Now, the cool thing is they also give him another piece of information, and they say, "There might be another player in town. We've only caught glimpses, but he seems to be circling the gang as well." Now, of course, based on the little image they give him, clearly it's Batman. And I'll tell you guys right now, Absolute Batman is amazing. Dude, oh my God, I love the way that Bruce Wayne is handled in this story. It's phenomenal. And so what they do is they send him coordinates to do two things. The first is to monitor the Party Animal gang, and the second is to seemingly keep tabs on Batman. And that's when you switch over to Bruce Wayne himself. Now, this is also another big difference between the main DC universe and this Absolute universe, in the
That's
sense that you
Batman.
pick up
That's
in
Bruce
Croc's
Wayne.
gym when Bruce Wayne basically starts
Ain't
practicing
no
with a
dang
punching bag.
Bruce Wayne.
And you
That's a
get a little
Bruce
bit of a
Bane. What are we
throwback to
talking
his
about?
childhood, where he's spending time with his father. Now, there is a kind of lesson that goes back and forth where after studying the lions and everything, his father's like, "What did we learn?" And the response of really Batman is, it says that he sleeps 20 hours a day. Plus, he gets fed prime rib 3 times a day and never has to be afraid of anything. This kid's living the life. Now, what's interesting here is he addresses his father as Mr. Wayne. There's a reason for that, and it's actually a really, really, really cool reason. But at the end of the day, Thomas Wayne asks him, "Are you excited for the movie later on tonight?" Of course, Bruce Wayne says, "Well, I'm more excited for a nap than anything else." And so ultimately, it's just kind of like, cool, right? Let's get going, class. And so that's when you realize Thomas Wayne in the Absolute Universe is a teacher, right? He teaches elementary school kids. He's not the ultra wealthy industrialite guy that we're familiar
Okay,
with
so
in the main DC universe. But then shots start.
all right, so this I'm with that being said, I'm guessing one of two things. Either this Bruce Wayne has no money or his mother makes all of the money.
Ringing out in the zoo. Now, of course, this leads to kind of flashing
Which,
back
what
to the
I understand
moment,
about
Bruce
teachers,
Wayne
they
punching
do
the
not make a
bag,
lot.
basically breaking it, and then meeting with what you and I know is Killer Croc. Now, he's not really the villain that we're familiar with. In fact, One of the other cool things as a development here is that there is a kind of conversation back and forth where they talk about how like Ozzy or Oswald Cobblepot effectively hooked up Killer Croc with an exotic pet license, so that's why he walks around with crocodiles and snakes and all kinds of cool reptiles. But the other thing is they aren't really criminals. In fact, Killer Croc seems very, very active within the city of Gotham as somebody trying to improve the city, which is really, really cool. And again, we'll see how far reaching that goes here in a minute. But you end up learning that like Selina Kyle, Killer Croc, seemingly Oswald Cobblepot, and most likely the Riddler, just the redheaded kid in the glasses, they all go back to being childhood friends. Right? So, like, it's not as though they just kind of met each other indiscriminately along the way as Batman was being a villain, or at least being a superhero fighting villains, and that they just kind of did their villainous thing and that was it. It's cool that you get this history here. And so after that, you switch over to this just giant yacht out there in the water, where you basically have a meeting between the Falcone-Maroni crime families and the head of the Party Animal gang. And what's interesting,
just to put a pause on that, that's a pretty interesting take right there. Instead of like Batman's Rogues Gallery don't start off as like his Rogues Gallery, they kind of start off like his friends. Curious to see how this blows up in his face. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe they could be like this universe's Bat family. I don't know.
interesting here is that this Party Animal leader is absolutely insane. I mean, this dude is really, really dark because, of course, with the Falcone and Maroni crime families,
like
they've ran Gotham
what the
for
heck?
years. And so some third party suddenly showing up here out of nowhere
is that
and
Blackmask?
quote unquote upsetting the apple cart, that makes a lot of enemies out of people. And so they ultimately tell him, like, go away or we're going to kill everybody in your gang. That's just what's going to happen. And so what happens is that this guy tells them that he's a huge fan of what are basically death masks. And in fact, he says, friends, I'm afraid you have me all wrong. History is what I'm all about. That's what we're celebrating here. And so when more masks are shown to the Falcone and Maroni crime families, that this guy says, not just any masks, death masks. I collect them. That one is rumored to be Socrates himself. This, of course, is Martin Luther. Of course, those of you guys who know your history know that Martin Luther is best known for the Protestant Reformation, but then the head of the Maroni crime family is shown that it's not actually Sal Maroni who's leading it. Instead, it's the brother of Sal Maroni, who, as far as I'm aware, doesn't exist in any of DC Comics outside of this. But one of these masks, essentially the head of Sal Maroni, is held by this leader of the Party Animal gang, along with the cousin of Mr. Falcone. And he's like, and all the rest. So in essence, this guy came into town before the Falcone and Maroni crime families even understood what was going on and started killing everybody, like killing all the other heads of the crime families.
Brother man over here got two knives in his eyes.
Come to the seat of the table and
Other
say,
brother
you
over
need
here
to stop
getting
all your criminal
choked out with
activities.
a
It's
Rottweiler.
too late. The demons are at the door. There's no way to stop what's happening. And so these guys are immediately killed on the spot, and their heads are going to be mounted up just like everybody else. I told you, this story is amazing. Like, it's so phenomenal. And
I'm running this one right up the middle.
Okay, so you gonna tell me your plan?
To the crib.
so again, following that, you pick up with Bruce Wayne officially donning the Batman mantle. Now, one of the things that had happened during the conversation between Killer Croc and Bruce Wayne is Croc had told him, hey, like Mayor Gordon is calling a kind of town hall meeting later on tonight to address the concerns of the citizenry in relation to the Party Animal gang and all the things that are going on. And so again, this demonstrates the fact that Croc is very, very much active in the community. And where one of the citizens speak up and really just kind of chastise Jim Gordon as mayor about how ineffective he is, the fact that he ran on his position as a cop, but he really hasn't shown any of the backbone he traditionally showed as a cop, meaning he's not willing to do whatever needs to be done to protect the city of Gotham from the Party Animal gang, that this guy says at least Mayor Hill did something. And so where Killer Croc stands up and says like Hamilton Hill was a crook, the response this guy gives is, yeah, but at least he was tough. And it kind of makes sense, right? The citizens of Gotham are desperate, and in times of desperation, people will believe what they want to believe. It doesn't have to be rational and it doesn't have to be reasonable. It's just what they choose to think. And so in turn, you have this other guy who tells a story and he says, I run Finger Tailors on 27th Street. Every single weekday for 71 years, I've walked to my shop, except the day my son was born and the day my wife died. 18,302 times I've walked there, but I don't walk there anymore. I don't walk anywhere because I'm scared. And that's really what it is when it comes to the citizens of Gotham. Here's the kicker about all of this. While this entire town hall meeting is being conducted by Mayor Jim Gordon, Alfred Pennyworth is staking the whole thing out and he's watching all of this. And that's when he's basically in contact with his handler and kind of filling them in, and they're giving him information, different things like that. The Party Animal gang is surrounding Town Hall, and there's dozens of them because their intention with all these people in one place is to go in here and shoot the place up, kill everybody in one fell swoop. Now, where you transition back to Mayor Jim Gordon, who talks about how he's going to bring these guys to justice and that he's working around the clock with the police, people call him out, right? And they're like, the cops, man, the Party Animals just torched a police station 2 hours ago, right? The cops can't do anything because these guys are not afraid of cops. Whenever cops meet someone with an equally capable force, the only real ally that police have on their side is fear. The fact that that person is just either too afraid of authority or has too much respect for authority to challenge cops. But when they have the means to challenge police officers and then they have no fear, that's when cops serve no useful purpose in society. And so that's why a lot of these folks are so terrified. Now, at that point, seemingly Selena Kyle stands up. Of course, most of you guys know her as Catwoman. And she says, look at us, all of us, right? This is what they want. All of us fighting, scared, blaming each other. But Jim Gordon served this city honorably for a long time. I work with his office and I trust him. I also trust us to be better than this because it's not just up to him or Commissioner Bullock. It's up to all of us to stop these killers. This is our city. And before she can finish her sentence, a grenade comes flying in, really more of a flashbang, and just everybody's blinded by this thing. The Party Animals come busting in, and they're just like, so does anybody want to beg? Right? Like, does anybody want to talk about how they have a family, or, you know, they have kids to take care of, or like a sick old grandma? Because we love that kind of stuff. Right? Like, we absolutely love those things. Not only that, they fire off a shot at Jim Gordon. They don't kill him, but they do injure him. Of course, you also find out that his daughter Barbara Gordon is very much here and is basically just a beat cop. But after all this is done, suddenly these guys are yanked back out the door.
Let me rewind a bit. Look at the condition of this podium. That podium is destroyed. You know how much you gotta hate somebody to just wipe out dang near half the podium? They dumped at least $15,000 worth of bullets in the gym. Dang. Well, Jim is dead, alright? If Jim is alive, he should be Batman, because the plot armor is strong with this one.
Beat cop. But after all this is done, suddenly these guys are yanked back out the door slams shut, and like Barbara Gordon walks up, cracks the door open, and Batman's just waiting there, and he says, whatever you hear, do not open this door. And son. Do you guys remember that scene in Hellraiser 2 when like everybody was locked in the nightclub and you were on the outside and you could hear them all screaming for their lives as they died? That's basically what happens here, man. Son. Batman lets loose, and it's amazing. So like Alfred Pennyworth is watching all this unfold, and he's told, like, if this third party disrupts the intelligence you're supposed to be gathering, you are to engage. And so Pennyworth is like, okay. Then he shuts his eyes, right? Because he can't stop what he can't see. Plausible deniability. And so all these guys, right, these party animal dudes just start firing it up at Batman, who's just like hanging from the rafters. And then, like, it turns out his entire outfit is bulletproof. And this guy descends on them like a demon. And without saying one word, starts taking out every single one of these guys. Now, while all this is going on, Alfred Pennyworth, who's really more listening to everything than physically watching everything, gives this really cool monologue and this amazing insight into the nature of this version of Batman. And he says, look at you go. Whoever you are, you've got flair. I'll give you that. So let's see what you can really do. And so in watching Batman fight, he says you're fast, you're steady. Above all, you're focused. You've been waiting for this, haven't you? You have. You've trained too. Mixed martial arts, which is your own blend. Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but you're a striker above all else. Brutal, yet precise. You're putting on a show. A leg stomped on.
BBJ. What is BBJ? Why do I feel like that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? That's what that is? Yeah, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. All right, cool.
So everyone hears the crack. An arm snapped over your knee, sending a message to every single person. You're enjoying it too. And the knife work, my God, so bloody, yet so precise. Each artery is missed by just enough. No fatalities at all, not one. So that means you're an idealist. Now this leads to this guy called the Hand, or at least seemingly he just addresses himself and saying, this hand has killed more people than you can count. Now I'm going to give you one chance to get out of our way. Now it's kind of a cool thing because I'd like to think this guy is just called the Hand. Of course, this guy breaks out the biggest meat cleaver I've ever seen. So what does Batman do?
The bat symbol comes off.
He returns in kind. And he brings out the Batman battle axe, which is dope, and just cuts this guy's hand clean off, right? Just like that. And he just tells him, even kind of taunting him. He's like, there's a hospital around here somewhere, but I can't remember which direction it is. So you better start running unless you want to bleed to death. And then he tells the rest of them, which really kind of reveals more, that the party animals kind of rely on numbers and really threat of danger for their schemes than any actual backbone.
Yeah,
Batman tells them, like, get out of my way. And like, they all just take off running. Now, Alfred watching this, he says, well done. But if you were a true tactician, you'd have set up a trap for those that were fleeing the scene, only to find out that he did, right? Batman seemingly activates this whole thing and blows this place to pieces. Now, it's not enough to kill everybody here, but it is enough to get the job done. And so Alfred is told by his contact, right? They're said, what's going on there? The satellite makes no sense. Whoever the player is, you are to engage. And Alfred says, okay. So Alfred moves up on Batman, and then he says, this is the sound of a DC-34 automatic shotgun, son. There are only 3 of them in the world. It could blow your brains all over the sidewalk before you even blink. What does Batman say? Man, son, you better come strong. Kicks Alfred, knocks the gun out of his hand, and then takes off with the gun, right? He's just like, it sounds dangerous. And he just leaves. And so after that, you have Alfred, who basically does...
Look at him.
It's dangerous. And he just leaves.
On the ground looking stupid. Should have just shot him.
And so after that, you have Alfred, who basically does this huge deep down investigation on who this Batman guy is. And in effect, he gives us the modern day origin of Absolute Batman in the Absolute universe. And he says, the next day, everyone's talking about it. Who is the Batman? So, who are you really? Bruce Wayne, you hide your tracks well, but it's easy when you're no one. Just some guy, 24 years old. Your mom is a social worker, your dad is a teacher. You grow up in crime alley, high friends in low places, a tight group. You're smart, excel in school, your parents have you tested, and you score near genius level. Then, in the 5th grade, you win a student engineering competition, creating a mobile collapsible bridge that can be used to bring aid to locations hit by catastrophic damage from war and cataclysm. The design is origami-like, based on the anatomy of a bat wing, and the prize is a trophy and a trip for your whole class to the Gotham Zoo, where it all starts, because somebody starts firing into the crowd. People are literally perishing here. And so Thomas Wayne grabs all the kids and takes them into the bat house, where he tells them all to stay safe. But in the midst of it, he's seemingly shot. And so what happens is Alfred says, after that, you lose yourself for a while. You lash out, you rage at the world, but then you find yourself again. Something inspires you. You straighten out, you go back to school and get a scholarship to the best university in the state. But when you get there, you get injured in the first week, a soft tissue tear. And he says, I've seen the x-rays though, and I've been in command of men who faked injury to escape duty. And I suspect that's exactly what you did. But why? You were good enough to be a star, even go pro, because you were saving your body for last night, for all of this, whatever it is that you've built. You studied applied mechanics, chemistry, criminal psychology, military theory, socio-cultural history, everything to
saving money feels right, just like when things are packed tidy and tight.
To prepare you for when you came home. And then you did. You set up in Gotham and worked in the power grid, then the water department. After that, you interned at City Hall, studying public policy, macro and micro policy, learning your city, the body, the brain, every single part of Gotham, until finally you come full circle, ever the engineer, creating, building, you even fix what you break, repairing the stairs that you blew up last night. You've built something here, Bruce. I see it now, and it's truly impressive. But it's really awesome because what it does is it removes Batman from the traditional plot device type character where he's like, I know the city inside and out because I've been in it for a very long time. And instead, it provides a more practical explanation for why Batman knows the city so well, which is why I say the Absolute Universe is DC's version of Marvel's Ultimate Universe, because the Ultimate Universe was kind of the answer to the question, what if superheroes were more grounded and existed in the modern day? What would it look like? And that's what the Absolute Universe is, right? It's really cool the way it's done. And so what ends up happening is Alfred says, I've taken men down like you before in cities and jungles and deserts all over the world because you're crusaders, and crusaders always have a weakness because they always have something that they care about. And yours is sitting right there, which is his mom. That Martha Wayne seemingly never died. It was just his father. Right? So you can kind of draw these almost Peter Parker parallels between this version of Batman and the one that you traditionally see in DC Comics where he lost both parents. And so it's essentially them just kind of talking and Bruce saying, I love you and that kind of thing, and the way you would relate to your parent, essentially. And so Alfred kind of continues on and he says, I could kill you right here in front of her. It would be that easy. It's what I should do, but you're just a kid. And so at the end of the day, you have Alfred who shows up to Batman in what's effectively his hideout, but it's not really down in the Batcave under Wayne Manor because there is no Wayne Manor. It's hard to have a Wayne Manor when your mom's just a social worker and doesn't make billions and billions of dollars. And so where Bruce Wayne resides here is actually on top of these old abandoned buildings, almost up in the sky. And so it allows him to operate with no one batting an eye on what he's doing because the buildings are designed to just kind of be like tax fronts, right? That they're really more write-offs than anything else. So the buildings are unoccupied. Nobody actually uses them. And so Alfred showing up here with his pistol is like, I'm shutting you down, right? That's the end of it. And so Batman draws the very gun that he took from Alfred, right? That DC-34 shotgun. And Alfred's like, I thought you were better than this, right? You're non-lethal. You don't kill people, right? And so he's like, give me the gun. And Batman opens fire on Alfred, right? Seemingly blows this guy away. And then he...
So that no-kill rule... Wait, is that Alfred's bike? He stole his bike, he stole his gun, shot him in the head. Alfred, this Batman is a menace. You done killed Alfred.
He takes his motorcycle and he rides off. Now, here's
my
the cool thing, right? Again, Alfred provides commentary here. He's like, a few things happened very fast.
Didn't die.
First, I realized that he modified my prize shotgun to be non-lethal, Basically, he ruined it. Second, I hear my very gun clatter by my side as though he's saying, keep it. And third, I hear this roar, the roar of my own motorcycle. And four, his voice says, you're not the only one who follows people. So seemingly, from the first time that Alfred Pennyworth arrived in the city of Gotham, Bruce Wayne's been following him. He's been learning about him, gaining information in the same way that Alfred's been gaining information about him. And so the question that really Alfred asks here is, what does all this mean and where are you going, right? Like when you ride off like this, are you going to get
The pellets are little bats.
the lay of the land? Is that what this is for? What happens when you basically become the person that you really are intending to be? Not only that, you pick up with this epilogue, which is really, really cool, where Alfred, speaking with his contact, says, I'll take care of Batman the next time he interferes. And his contact says, okay, deal. But for what it's worth, the target that you were previously following in the Philippines before we yanked you out and brought you here, he's in the wind. Nobody knows where he is. We thought you should know. Here's the thing. It's amazing because what happens is Alfred says, 5 years I tracked him while he studied with Henry Ducard in France. Then he killed the guy while he trained with the League of Assassins, and then he killed them. Now this guy's in the wind. And so you pick up in Manila, and basically you have these two pilots, right? One of them says, or really asks here to be honest, is there nothing else that we call him besides Sir? Like there's no name or anything like that? And the other pilot says, nope, like all the names are fake anyway. Jack Arthur, even I don't know his real name. When you're one of the 30 richest men on the planet, you can be whoever you want to be. And so this other guy says, you think he'd want to be my rich, generous best friend? And this guy says, no, right? Don't do that. Do not joke. And when the guy asks why, the second pilot says, didn't you hear? The guy never laughs, not at anything ever. That's why they call him the Joker.
That's this universe's Joker? A Joker that doesn't laugh. That's interesting. Also kind of a throwback because didn't the original Joker not like laugh either because it was painful for him to laugh? Huh. Interesting.
With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Scott Snyder's back, son, and
All right. So that was Absolute Batman issue 1. Final thoughts? This looks like this is an interesting comic. I want to know more. So, if you all would like to know more, let me know, and I will continue watching these. And wow. Okay.